Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So good day to all of you. It's fun today that we're going to be talking to Kevin Hanan. Kevin Hanan is with CRE Task confused with TaskRabbit, Task Wizard. So it's a very interesting company that will help all of you commercial real estate people out there to find virtual assistants. So Kevin, it's great to have you. If you wouldn't mind just kind of going through a little history here of how you got to CRE Task Wizard, it would be great.
Bruce, thank you for having me. I am looking forward to getting to know you, your audience a little bit better. Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Dallas, and actually spent high school and college in the Bay Area, where you're located out in the East Bay. I know you're from San Mateo. So I went to high school in Concord and went to college at St. Mary's. After college, I got started in commercial real estate as a broker at CBRE in Austin, Texas. I was on an office and industrial tenant rep team, servicing mostly corporate occupiers for different accounts for CBRE, and did that for about 3.5 years. Worked on a fantastic team, and then I got the startup itch and went out to join a Silicon Valley. Give me 1 second here. Mute that for you. Went out to Silicon Valley, joined a prop tech company in commercial real estate called FlexDesk, and was the first employee there. We went through Y Combinator and did that. And then through that, I actually founded the company that we are now working on called CRE Task Wizard, which is what you mentioned at the onset of the call.
That's very cool. So in your startup, it's funny, you said itch. I believe you said startup itch, but
Yeah.
it came out as startup bitch a little bit, but that's all right. I thought that's an interesting combination of words. But what was it, the first one you worked on? What was their sort of mission and task that they did?
Yeah. Startup itch, although some people could get it confused either way. It sometimes feels like the word you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
That's the nature of a startup. Kidding aside, so what was your question?
Well, what was the first sort of mission or task or business module that you worked on?
FlexDesk. Yeah, FlexDesk is a really interesting company. So it was created, Clark Jacobs is the founder. It was created out of kind of COVID, like the reformation of how people worked from COVID. And what FlexDesk was originally intended to do was essentially be a like the Airbnb of co-working spaces. So it was a platform where anyone could book any co-working space in the world.
Wow.
From just like Airbnb, right? So you could book a WeWork, you could book a Regus for the day, for the month, all from the FlexDesk platform. What we pivoted quite a few times. The end user for FlexDesk, and they've since pivoted, so I can't speak on it as well as I could when I worked there. The end user for FlexDesk was corporate real estate decision managers. And what they would do is supply their employees with a benefits package so that instead of working from home, they could get out of the house and use a stipend to rent a co-working space for the day. And that was all bundled under one roof, the corporate company FlexDesk package, right? So it was a very interesting start. We got a lot of traction through that. I think when they went through Y Combinator, they realized they weren't exactly hitting the right problem. Today, they've expanded into a portfolio management service software for office occupiers, large corporate occupiers, which they still have their co-working product, but it's also a way to manage leases, key expiration dates, and drive insights about the office utilization for the company and different ways that companies can right-size their portfolio. That's what they're doing.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, completely sort of different pivot from actually sitting at a desk to doing, yeah.
Yeah, and they're working with some really big users, and the founding team there, two really sharp individuals, and I think they really zoned in on a pain point that will scale well for them.
That's great. That's great. So then you kind of, from that situation, you decided to start CRE, the Commercial Real Estate Task Wizard. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I was a broker at CBRE, I started to hire virtual assistants from the Philippines to help me when I was a broker generate more business. And what they would largely do for me is list build, right? This is in my early days of doing it. First time I had ever done it. I didn't know what I was doing. I would just have them, again, I was trying to prospect to tenants, and I would have them go build a list of all the tenants in Austin and find 2 or 3 decision makers and their contact information and set up an email campaign to those folks that I would write the email campaign. They would just go find the contact information and put it in the campaign, start the campaign. And that generated meetings for me. And that experience was pretty transformative to me, where I was like, well, giving somebody a really good job for employment that's going to change their life. This is changing my business. And I just kind of tucked that in my back pocket. When I went to FlexDesk, ironically, we had a project that we had to do where we had to scrape co-working information from all of the co-working providers all over the world. So we basically wanted every co-working building on our FlexDesk platform across the world.
Oh, wow.
Our clients had employees all over the world. And so we used virtual assistants to help with that project, to gather all that data. And through that process, I realized, we had trained some of these virtual assistants in commercial real estate. I realized that there was some value after that project was through, for other brokers that I had previously worked with to work with these individuals, because they were sharp. They knew commercial real estate. So my co-founder and I spun up a website. We had 10 or so virtual assistants that were experienced in commercial real estate. And we just introduced some of our brokerage friends to those individuals. They hired them, and it sort of just kind of took off in our lap in an organic fashion, and eventually did it full time. That's all we're doing now, is we place virtual assistants for commercial real estate brokers and investors.
Oh, that's cool. So I assume when somebody is hired, they pay you basically through CRE Task Wizard, and then you pay the virtual assistants.
Yeah.
And then you make a certain percentage point on the payment.
Yeah, exactly. So our model, there's 2 value props to working with Task Wizard. The one is the recruiting. So we have a big pipeline of commercial real estate assistants from countries all over the world. The second value prop is when you hire an assistant through Task Wizard, they are managed and trained by an ex-CBRE broker. Who's a full-time CRE Task Wizard. So you're actually paying for not only the virtual assistant's labor, you're paying for the management and oversight of that virtual assistant. Your account manager, all they do is manage VAs for commercial real estate brokers. And they do that from the lens of a broker. Right?
Oh, that's cool. So it actually kind of goes through the broker to the virtual assistant, so that there's some accountability, to make sure that the task is done correctly and the information that is transmitted comes back and forth correctly.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, a virtual assistant needs to be managed. And most brokers, not all, we're not a fit for every broker, but most brokers don't have a reasonable amount of time, energy, or experience to manage an assistant, because they have their own business to work on.
Right.
So they lean on us to set up that infrastructure, to kind of design the roadmap for what successful work looks like for the VA, and so that the broker can focus on the business, and the administrative work can be done by the VA, and the quality control can be managed by the account manager, who's an ex-broker, right?
So I assume this is sort of a straight fee. Can you give us some idea of what the fee might be for this type of service?
Yeah, we offer several different plans, 40 hours and 20 hours a week. So it's either full-time or part-time. the plans can vary depending on what kind of task or project you are hiring for, right? But these are full-time, or these are dedicated assistants, so they're only working for you. We're not a freelancing company. So if you have a full-time executive assistant or virtual assistant, our average client is paying about $1,750 a month for 8 hours a
Specific
day.
number, 1,750. Okay. All right.
Yep, for 8 hours a day,
Uh-huh.
5 days a week. And then part-time, so 20 hours a week, is the average client's paying about $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit of economy of scale there.
Sure.
In terms
Sure,
of not
yeah.
half the price, but sort of half the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our model, I'm very transparent about this with our clients and our assistants. When you pay Task Wizard, your assistant is making about 70% of that fee in the form of their wages, which is about 20 to 30% above a median wage in their home country. And then Task Wizard keeps the rest for the management and training of that assistant, right?
Yeah. No, that's cool. So what do? You have to end up paying any sort of employment tax, or how do you handle that part of it?
Nope. You're in contract with a U.S. entity, and our clients write it off as a business expense. We handle all of the independent contractor relationships with our assistants. They're in a relationship with Task Wizard. You're in a direct relationship with a business expense with CRE Task Wizard, which is an American entity.
Yeah, and you pay them through Venmo or some method of payment that way.
Well, we pay them through a global payment infrastructure. Depends on what country they're coming from, but our clients just pay us through debit card or credit card or bank transfer, whatever they want.
Right. So you take a credit card or whatever, and off you go from there, and then you pay the virtual assistant through some other method.
That's right.
Works for them.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. So you had mentioned earlier there are sort of 4 different tranches or different groups of tasks that happen. Maybe you can go through that again for me.
Yeah. So we have different divisions. We have a brokerage division. We have a property management division. So I should be more specific. Brokerage/investor division, and then a separate division for property management. Under the brokerage and investor division, we have 4 talent verticals of candidates. I'll tell you what those are. The first is our most popular. That's data and lead generation. The second is transaction management. The third is marketing. And then the fourth is underwriting.
So what's the difference between marketing and database?
Lead generation, data. So data and lead generation is direct cold outreach. Okay. It's getting the information. If you're a landlord broker, it's finding the contact information for the landlords in your market and reaching out to them, right? Setting up and managing outbound campaigns, whether it be cold calling, cold email, direct mail, managing the CRM. It's the sort of hand-to-hand combat of reaching out to those users. Marketing, it's a great question, by the way, is setting up what we call the inbound channels or the inbound funnels, right? So social media marketing, flyer design, property design, that's what you put out in the public and people come to you, right?
Yeah, right.
Podcasts
that makes sense. I sort of thought that would be the case, but I just wanted to make sure we defined that for the group.
Yeah.
So then what's the difference between investor and, say, broker? What do you do for the investor?
Yeah, most of the investors, the 2 most common roles that we're hiring for investors or developers would be usually underwriting,
right,
or the lead generation, right? Most investors don't really need to market their services too much. They have a pool of investors that give money to them to go buy properties, right? They don't need to social media market too much.
Right.
So it's a lot of cold callers finding properties that are open to receiving offers.
Right.
And it's a lot of underwriters who are actually seeing if the deal makes sense.
I got you. So they'll crunch the numbers actually and let you know if this is a good deal or a bad deal.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so they'll go through the OM, the offering memorandum, and kind of see what the numbers look like and see if they really are a 5 cap or whatever
Yeah.
the numbers say. Oh,
They'll
that's cool.
collect rent comps, they'll call around and, understand what, if it's apartments, what other apartments in the area are leasing for, and get the vacancy rates and stuff, and they'll put together a model. They can build their
Wow.
own model, they can use your model. Most of our um, most of our underwriters actually come from India traditionally.
Yeah.
Um, Ironically speaking, that's the only vertical that India is popular for. Like the other verticals that I mentioned, usually that's Mexico, Egypt, Colombia, the Philippines. Those are the most popular countries. But for underwriting, the talent is exceptional in India.
Yeah, which makes sense to me. They're great at spreadsheets and crunching numbers, and so that makes obvious sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you mentioned property management too. So what happens in that category?
So in property management, that's a lot of fun. I think our property management clients, that's been a game changer for them. Most of that is basically anything that doesn't require you to be in the office, opening a facility, opening a door. So maintenance coordination, right? Coordinating with vendors and scheduling painting or repairs, leasing coordination, the move-in timeline, when leases come up from renewal, they can handle all that communication, accounts receivable, accounts payable, all the bookkeeping that happens behind the scenes, for property management. Those are the most common roles. And then, just fielding phone calls, right? Like a receptionist, a virtual receptionist.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so they could handle that and have a real person on the line rather than going to voicemail or whatever.
Yeah.
So what happens if a property manager has like a Yardi or some other property management software? Do they link into that situation?
That's right. We get this question all the time from both brokers and property managers. 80% of our clients are brokers, but also property managers. Same question, like, can they use my software? Can they use my tools, right? They can. We train them. So your account manager is an ex broker and they really understand the business. We train them on all your tools and softwares. So for example, Yardi, we have probably 30 training videos in-house that we've made for Yardi.
Oh, wow.
When your VA works with us and they're paired with a client like you who uses Yardi, they're going to go through Yardi training before they even start for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what about if they use CoStar or LoopNet?
Same thing.
Yeah,
I'd say 90% of our VAs are using CoStar at some capacity in their work.
And obviously the data group are using LinkedIn or whatever other source to try and find contacts to
Contact them.
Mhm.
Yeah, nowadays, heavily using artificial intelligence too.
Oh, okay.
Some really, really exciting tools that kind of automate that process, or serve as what I call a co-pilot to that data fetching process. One of them that we love is called Clay. And it automates that process of like going to LinkedIn, looking at a company, figuring out who the decision maker is. You can coach it and train it to do that. And what that looks like is the virtual assistant. I use an analogy of a train. AI is the train and the virtual assistant is the conductor. They're just kind of pointing the AI tool that they're coaching it, they're training on what it needs to do. And of course it's not perfect. And so they just make sure that it's running up to speed, and that allows you to get more data faster with more accuracy.
Oh, that's cool. So that's interesting. So the virtual assistant or the AI, in this case, Clay, is able to get into LinkedIn in some fashion and generate leads that way.
Yeah. So you can, kind of train your Clay model. Let's say like you, Bruce, right? Let's say you're targeting, let's say you're targeting retail tenants, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You could coach your Clay model to find coffee shops that are expanding into the Bay Area. Okay.
Yeah.
And go to the LinkedIn page and find either a director of operations or a director of real estate or a CFO. And it'll actually go find their LinkedIn's and pull their email address, pull their
Wow.
phone number, put it into a spreadsheet for you like that, right? Faster than any human could do it.
And they don't need any sort of membership type thing to get into LinkedIn?
They do, like, they do, right?
Yeah.
The client would provide that.
Oh, okay. I
any
see.
tool or softwares, just as you would if you had an employee in your office working for you.
Yeah. So they have an account and they go in and kind of mine out the information that you want, and off you go from there.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that is all fantastic information. I'm sure that some of the people on this call, on this podcast, will be very interested in this. So, Kevin, how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
A couple different ways. I think the easiest is you could go onto our website, which is www.CRETaskWizard.com. And you can book a discovery call with our team. My email, which I'm happy to give out as well, is kevin@CRETaskWizard.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn pretty easily. Either one of those channels works for us.
And how do you spell your last name? It's on.
Yeah, Hanan.
Yeah, very easy. Well, this is fantastic. I look forward to talking to you further. I'm excited. I may have to use some of these services.
Bruce, thanks so much. It's great to be on here. Great to meet you and face to face. And looking forward to following along the podcast.
That sounds great. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.